And then, yeah, let's begin. So let me tell you a little bit about Products by Women. Kathleen, if you could go to the next slide, please. We are a diverse global community network for women in innovation, tech, and beyond. And we are all about connecting and learning from our peers, finding jobs beyond borders, and getting matched with recruiters and mentors to accelerate your career. And there are many ways that you can connect with Products by Women. For example, next slide, you can join our Slack network. You can come to an event like you are already today. You can read articles that are featured on our website. And if you have written articles of your own that you might want us to consider featuring on our website, please do feel free to send them our way. You can go to our website, which I'm going to put in the chat in just a little bit more details, and you can send them to be reviewed. And you can also listen to our podcast, which we have several podcasts where we interview female founders and hear about their journeys. So there's many ways you can engage depending on what kind of content you like and what works for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen, and she'll tell us a little bit about Smartcar, being the first designer at Smartcar, and then we're going to jump into a Q&A where I've already prepared some questions for her, and then after that section, I'm going to hand it over and open it up to the audience for more questions. So thank you again for joining, and I'll hand it over to you, Kathleen.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Michaela. I'm super excited to be speaking to everyone and kind of sharing my experience as the first designer at Smartcar. To just kind of start off and give a little bit of background on myself. I started my design journey in college. I didn't really know about design at the time, and I was actually not even sure what I wanted to major in. So I kind of took initiative by exploring different student organizations. And so I thought maybe business would be interesting to explore because it's a very broad field and there's a lot of different careers you can go to within that. And so I joined a publications committee in a business club, and I worked on designing yearbooks and a yearbook and a lot of newsletters in Adobe InDesign, which I haven't touched since, but I actually just kind of discovered that my passion wasn't really in business. I wasn't really interested in any of those careers, and I really enjoyed designing. So the next semester, I joined a design club where I worked on projects with a lot of other students in a variety of different majors, and worked on design projects for startups in the Bay Area. And I really enjoyed kind of the aspect of like design was like problem solving, but also very creative. And I really like the like balance of both. And I also co-taught a design class that was on the human-centered design process and just the foundations of design and design thinking. And that really forced me to learn a lot more about design on my own. I taught it with a few friends from the design club, and I kind of realized there was so much to learn about design, and a lot of it is super accessible, and you can find basically any question you have about design, any topic, you can find online and through like books. And then I also, then the summer before I graduated, interned on the design team at Coinbase, and that was my first experience working in design at a company. And I learned a lot about working in a small team of like engineers and working with a product manager to ship features, and also learned a lot from pretty experienced designers. And then in December of 2018, I graduated with a degree in cognitive science from Berkeley. And that was a kind of interdisciplinary major. So I took classes in computer science, neuroscience, philosophy, linguistics. So it's kind of like a mix of a lot of different things, but a lot of like the concepts like how people behave and the way people think is definitely relevant to design, but not like explicitly so. And then finally, I joined Smartcar as their first designer last April. So I've been there for about a year and a half. And yeah, I'm really excited to share my experience working at Smartcar with everyone today. And so kind of the reasons why I wanted to join a startup out of school was number one, I wanted to have a large impact on a product and company. And because I was so like kind of, this was my first job out of school. So I really wanted to have the opportunity to make a big impact, and a startup was the perfect environment for me to do that. And then I also wanted to solve new and interesting problems. And Smartcar has a really unique product that I was really interested in helping build. And then also just being able to have autonomy over design decisions was something I really valued. Just having a lot of ownership over product and design decisions was something that you don't really get at a larger company. And then another great thing about startups is that you have the opportunity to ship work and iterate frequently. I think like the best learnings come from seeing your work out in the hands of your customers or users. So that's a huge bonus of working at a startup. And then also just being able to gain a broad range of design skills really quickly. You kind of have to wear a lot of hats, as anyone does in a startup. So I really enjoyed that about working at a startup. And then lastly, working with kind and talented people. I think at a startup like Smartcar, we're just under 20 people right now, and everyone works really closely together towards the same like mission and same goals. So that's one of my favorite parts. Is definitely like the people that you get to work with at a startup. And then to set a little context about what Smartcar is, Smartcar is the first and only API platform for connected cars. So basically what that means is that we help mobility applications easily communicate with vehicles. So this is an example. Just Insurance is one of our customers, and they charge their customers based on their customers' driving behavior and mileage. So they use Smartcar's API to get the odometer from a vehicle and a customer's vehicle, and then Smartcar retrieves the mileage from a customer's vehicle and sends it back to Just Insurance. And odometer is just one of Smartcar's many endpoints, and Smartcar works a lot across a lot of different industries, including EV charging, fleet management, and car sharing. And then I'll just quickly walk through some of the projects I get to work on at Smartcar. One of them includes our marketing website. This is definitely a close partnership with myself and our content writer, who writes basically all the copy. And then really one of the big challenges is kind of making sure that our product is explained in a really easy to understand way. And then also the design kind of reflects that for our customers, which I'll go into a little bit more. And then Smartcar Connect is our authorization flow that allows vehicle owners to connect their vehicles through Smartcar to an application. So this is an example of Just Insurance and how their policy holders actually connects their vehicles. And then I also work on demo apps that allows our sales team to communicate to customers about how Smartcar would look in their application. So we have one that's more of a general use case, and then this one is specifically for insurance. And then another big part as a developer product, our documentation is super important to help developers integrate Smartcar into their app. And one of the projects I worked on last year, at the end of last year, was creating an integration guide, and that would help customers productionize their integration. And then in our docs, we also have a bunch of tutorials that helps developers get started. And then the developer dashboard is a big part of the platform as well. One of the larger new features that I helped build last year as well was webhooks, which helps customers automatically retrieve vehicle data from a vehicle on a scheduled basis. And yeah, we're constantly like coming up with new features for our dashboard and making it more valuable for our developers. And then, yeah, lastly, I'm just putting my email here. If anyone wants to contact me with any questions, feel free to send me an email after this, or find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathleen. So now, just to orient everyone, we're going to just start a little Q&A with Kathleen that we've prepared, and then we'll jump into some more questions from you. So as we walk through our question answers that I have for Kathleen, if anything comes up for you, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I'll try to get to them when I get to that part. So just to start off, Kathleen, could you tell me what were your first months at Smartcar like?
Yeah, so before I joined, Smartcar already had their platform built out, so I didn't really have to jump straight into designing. So it wasn't like a huge rush. I could kind of take my time to understand what this product was like, and what was on the future roadmap, and what projects to work on, and really understand the customers. Smartcar has kind of a two-sided, two different customers. So it's the product itself is for developers, but our customers, the people who are buying our product, are business people, so like product people or people on the business development team at a company. So it's really important to understand both sides of like who is using Smartcar. And so I looked through our analytics tools like Google Analytics and Mixpanel, which we were using at the time. I looked through the funnels and really tried to understand where people were going, what pages people were going through, how much time they were spending on each page, to really understand the customer journey. And then one of my first projects I worked on was a redesign of our authorization flow, Smartcar Connect. One of the big goals of that project was to, beyond just like a visual refresh, really think about all the different scenarios a customer might be going through. So there's the tricky part about Connect is that the people who are able to connect their vehicles are those with a compatible vehicle, and they also need to have a connected services account. So instead of just designing for the success case, something I had to do with the team was just really think about all the different edge cases. So the users who didn't have a compatible vehicle or a connected services account, how they would be able to experience the flow and easily exit the flow or check whether their vehicle is compatible or not.
Okay, great. And so in kind of with the same theme, when you joined Smartcar, was there anything you were pleasantly surprised about that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I think I was super worried at first about kind of advocating why design is necessary, because they didn't have a designer before and they had basically all the parts, like the first version of the product built out. I was people were kind of also warning me about just having to advocate for the value of design. And I actually realized I didn't really need to do that because my team knew what design was and could even teach me things about design. So like bringing up things like design accessibility and giving me their feedback on the visual hierarchy of my designs. And they definitely knew what design was and could even teach me. So that was really great. And I found my team was really excited about me being part of their process and helping build a product together. It's a very collaborative environment, which was really great. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, even though I was like a team of one, it definitely felt like the entire company was my team.
That's
Uh,
yeah, that's good. Yeah. So you felt like even you didn't have to advocate as much as you thought that you would have.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And like even more than design, I had the opportunity to just help plan out problems that we were working on solving for the future as well. Got to work on
Mm-hmm.
like blue sky projects too. So there's a lot of autonomy over not just design, but you definitely have a big voice uh,
Mm-hmm.
in helping shape product, like new product features and what the product roadmap looks like.
Great. Yeah. And is there anything in particular, like, are there any specific skills that you feel that are required being the first designer of at a startup?
Yeah, I think I definitely consider myself a generalist. I think it's important as the first designer to kind of have a solid foundation in all the basic parts of product design. So that involves product thinking, user research, interaction design, and visual design. I think those are like the four core elements that will be super essential. Um, and I think also because Smartcar is an API platform and a developer product, is really helpful to have some technical knowledge, uh, just understanding and building some empathy for the different challenges that our developers face, and then just like communicating with our engineers. So I think that can also be helpful. And then, yeah, I think another thing is it's more than just skill. It's just kind of your enthusiasm for working on a lot of different things. Even though my role is product design, I uh, do a lot of like marketing design to help our teams, our marketing sales and sales teams with collateral, and then also doing a lot of brand design, so designing our entire brand and um, how that reflects into the product. And then also just a lot of more traditional like product manager work. So that's like helping to plan out projects and creating problem definition docs, doing user research. So you kind of get to do everything. And yeah, it's not exactly something everyone will enjoy, but it's definitely something that I personally enjoy. And I think a lot of people who don't want to be boxed into a specific thing will find really fun about being the first designer.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there what as you got into the first week, the first month, the first year, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had at Smartcar being the first and only designer?
Yeah, one thing I found that was hard was doing like user research and getting customer feedback. We're like a more kind of like a B2B product where we can't just go onto the streets or like ask our friends what they think about our product. We really need to uh, talk to the customers who will find value in our product and ask them and are actually using our product to kind of get an idea of what opportunities our product uh, opportunities to improve our product. And so another challenge as a startup is we don't want customers to focus on all the pain points of our product and all the shortcomings. We want our customers to really come to us when they have any problems with our product. So one way to kind of get around that issue is to talk to customers early on when they're beginning to plan their integration with Smartcar. One thing I do is I attend pretty much all of our customer onboarding meetings when our customer success manager is first talking to our customers about how they're planning on integrating. I'll just jump in and ask some questions. So that includes how they're planning on using Smartcar in their application, and then also just any challenges they're facing as they're going through their integration. And so once we have that like open communication, and I can come to them with any designs and get feedback from them as I explore some solutions for any of the problems they're facing.
Hmm. And being the only designer at your company, or the first design, how do you improve your design skills when you're the only one?
Yeah, I think I have to be constantly reflecting on the different skills I want to improve on as the only designer. There's no other designers to kind of like compare yourself to or tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. And I definitely do have the support of my manager, uh, who has been super helpful. And I found it really valuable. And I think this is something I learned about like 6 months into working at Smartcar, is just being very transparent and open with my manager about any issues I'm having, like in terms of like any weaknesses I have to improve. I think it's important to let your manager know, because we were really able to work together to figure out what things I can work on, and just be transparent about like what projects I want to work on, to improve my skills. So I think it's definitely like that communication with my manager is really important, to because he's definitely like an advocate for my own growth. And then another way is just keeping up with what different companies are doing. So as a developer product, there's a lot of other developer products that I create accounts for and try out. And then that's really helpful because most of the time as designers, we're not solving completely new problems. There's definitely some product another designer has definitely solved a similar problem. So it's good to kind of get a little bit of inspiration from similar products in the similar space. And then another thing is just kind of just keeping up with design in general. As I mentioned before, there's so many resources for design like on the internet. So yeah, I read like newsletters and articles and like look at design websites to just keep up to date with the newest design news and trends.
Cool. Are there any specific ones you want to share with the participants today that you would really recommend? Newsletters, websites that you like?
Yeah, for newsletters, there's a couple. One I really enjoy is Sidebar. They send 5 links every weekday, which is on like the newest design, just design news. So that really helps me keep up with kind of like the design industry. And then Julie Zhou also writes a really great newsletter on Through the Looking Glass. It's very like popular on like Medium, and she publishes it there too. But she was like the former VP of design at Facebook, and she writes a lot of really great pieces on design and product. So definitely highly recommend those two. And then for like websites, I look at like Site Inspire and awards for web design. And then Type Wolf is really great for web design, and also just like it focuses on typography. And yeah, I believe they also do a newsletter.
Yeah, they do. I love Type Wolf. It's great. And so you've been sharing with us about your journey and how you keep learning and improving. Whenever you hit a wall where maybe you don't know something, what do you do?
Yeah, the first thing I do is just talk to my team members. I definitely talk to basically any team member. I definitely include a lot of my team members in my design process. And so it's very rare that I'm in a place where I'm like super stuck on a problem because I'll just talk to my teammates, and they always provide me with like a new perspective, and really help unblock me on projects. And yeah, I think my teammates teach me a lot about design, and then also just discussing my designs with my teammates really helps them understand kind of all the reasoning that goes behind designing a product, and like helps them realize it's not like I never want to just show up with a design that no one has seen. Um, the more I show it to my team members, the better it gets. So definitely that's a big part. And then, yeah, if I ever have any design specific problems, I'll talk to my design mentor about it. Earlier this year, I was paired with a design mentor from Hexagon UX. They're another community that's for women and non-binary folks in the design community, and they have a Slack group and mentorship program. And so, yeah, I talk to my mentor a lot about any challenges I'm facing at work and any design topics I wanted to learn more about. Um, and then, yeah, we catch up every few weeks to chat about any like challenges I have at work. So, yeah, I highly recommend also just getting a design mentor if you're, especially if you're the only designer at your company. And yeah, I'm happy to chat more with anyone who's interested in like breaking into the design industry or being the first designer at a startup. Yeah, I've been through it pretty recently and would really love to help others.
Great. And thank you for that. And before I jump into some of the questions that we are getting from all the participants, which I'm keeping track of, there are some great ones coming in the pipeline. So keep writing your questions, everyone. I just want to ask you one more of my own questions, which is what advice do you have for other designers looking to be the first designer at a company or startup?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is just making sure that the company um, understands the value of design. So, and just understands what design is. Definitely, if you ask them or they say like design is just making things look pretty, then maybe it's not the best place to work at. Um, I think asking very specific questions about that, like why is design important for your company, or like what examples do you have for projects I might be working on? Just like those types of questions to really understand whether the work and their understanding of design aligns with yours. I think you want to make sure that like the product you're working on is something that you care about, the mission is something that you're really excited about, because working at a startup definitely requires you to be more um, think a lot about um, your work. And I think being passionate about the mission is like kind of requirement, and you can kind of detach yourself a little bit more if you work at a larger company, but at a startup, that's not really the case. And fortunately, at Smartcar, um, our founders, our co-founders, and the team really care about design, and um, that was kind of one of the big reasons why I wanted to join Smartcar, and it's also just contributed to the positive experience that I have at Smartcar, because it's pretty hard to find that in a company where there's no other designers. Yeah, like if you're working at a company that has designers already, you can kind of ask them. But I think even if you're not the only designer, making sure that the leadership and really like the co-founders of a company also care about design a lot is really important. And then the second thing is just don't be afraid of joining a startup as the first designer. I think it's definitely a misconception that you have to have like 10 years of experience to be the first designer at a company. And I think the most important thing is just to have a growth mindset. If you have that, like you're more than capable of being the first designer. Yeah, it's definitely can be challenging at times, but your skill set will grow a lot and you'll learn a lot beyond design. So I'm learning so much about just like building a company, building a product, and it's just overall a super rewarding experience. So I highly recommend it for anyone who's even like remotely interested.
Awesome. So we have some great questions I'm going to jump into from our participants now. So thank you everyone who submitted questions so far. And I'm going to try to get to everyone's questions, or as many as we can, for Kathleen. So the first question that came in for you, Kathleen, is since Smartcar already had an existing product and brand, what were some of the ways that you incorporated this into your tasks while designing something new?
Yeah. So since they already had a brand and a product, actually many of my first projects included like redesigning each like a lot of the primary parts of the platform. And I wanted to incorporate the existing brand. So right before I joined, Smartcar launched a new homepage refresh, and we wanted to tie that into the rest of the brand. So I kind of just used that visual language and try to apply it within the product to create a very cohesive experience. And that kind of led to like a big mistake I made, which was because the primary color was bright red. I wanted to use that across our product, which definitely created a pretty bad experience because red is usually like an error state. It's very like jarring, especially for developers who like dark mode, very light, like very crisp colors. And yeah, so I kind of realized that mistake after we shipped it, but a couple team members came to me. We have a lot of engineers on our team, and we fixed that like pretty much right away. But that was definitely a big learning I had in terms of just making sure to show my designs to members of the team. And yeah, I think I make so many mistakes as the first designer, as the only designer. I make a lot of decisions like every single week. So definitely there are some like just I make mistakes, and that just comes with being the only designer. And I think those are all like really great learning experiences. So I always try to look at those in positive ways. Nothing is really set in stone. You can always like change and correct your mistakes. So yeah.
Wow, that's a great, thank you for sharing that experience with us. You know, it's hard to admit your mistakes sometimes, but thank you for sharing because everyone does, right? And that's how you learn. Yeah. And someone wanted to know what was your first week like at Smartcar when you started as the first designer?
Yeah, a lot of it was just like onboarding. We have a very like great onboarding experience where I got to chat with a lot of members across different teams. So we had like an engineering overview with my manager, and then also sales overview, a marketing overview. So definitely got to chat with everyone on the team and really get to know everyone on the team. And then basically my first day, I was already in a like brainstorm meeting for the redesign of our Connect flow. So also kind of jumped into a project right away. But yeah, I think my first week was really great in terms of like my team was super helpful in helping me understand everything about the product. Or I didn't understand everything in my first week. It definitely took a couple months, but just getting familiar with the product and also with the company and what everyone does, and how we would work together. So yeah.
Yeah. And how, as the first designer in the company, how do you measure success? What are kind of the benchmarks for you that you keep track of, and for your designs? How do you know that you're being successful?
Yeah. For myself, I set like OKRs quarterly with my manager, so objective key results. And then those are kind of like my goals for the quarter. And I, for each like objective I have kind of the things list out like the things like the actionable things I'll do to achieve that. And then I'll basically in every one-on-one I'll kind of go over those with my manager, kind of check in with how I'm doing, and then whether like my projects align with those goals. And sometimes we have to readjust those to make sure that those are aligned. Um, and then in terms of measuring my success for my designs, a lot of it is very data driven. I think uh, I we rely on data a lot, and also just uh, customer feedback to really measure the success of our uh, success of designs. So one thing I do when starting every project is create a design document where I list out like the problem and also kind of like our hypothesis of like what we'll do to achieve the objective, and then specific like metrics we want to achieve. So those are kind of our metrics of success. And that's really helpful to set a goal in the beginning of a project, so you can kind of look back when you're making iterations, and then also at the end when you ship out the product feature to see whether or not it met that goal. So yeah, setting it early on in a project is important. And then yeah, you never know if a design is successful or not until you get that feedback from customers and you see how people are actually using it through data. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And speaking about customer feedback and customer research, we got a couple questions for you about that. One was, are you responsible for user testing and or recruiting users for user testing? And if so, do you have any tips? I know earlier you mentioned about how you like to join in on the like onboarding meetings for your for new clients, but do you have any other ways that you go about doing user testing and recruiting users?
Mhm. Yeah. So it definitely depends on what part of our product that we want to test. So for our homepage, it's more we can test with more of the business persona that I discussed, and then also developers, so that we can talk to a much broader range of people. And then for our actual like product, it's definitely for developers. So we do have to talk to developers who are using our product. It's definitely a little bit of a niche market. So it's um, developers who are designing or developers who are working on mobility applications. So I definitely have to talk to my customer success manager, and he helps me set up meetings to talk to those customers. And so most of the time it's it's a collaboration with our customer success manager to find the relevant customers to talk to, because yeah, depending on like how long they've been using our product, we figure out if the thing that we want to test is right for them.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And have you found within your role also as the first designer at Smartcar that you have to advocate for doing customer research? And if so, how do you go about advocating for that?
Mhm. Yeah, before we had a customer success manager, he joined in December. So I was at Smartcar since last April. So yeah, I was around like 8 months where we didn't have someone kind of responsible for that, and it was really hard to talk to customers. And yeah, I was constantly asking my manager like how I would be able to talk to customers, and definitely was much more challenging. Um, so I was working with our sales team, and it was a little more difficult to coordinate. Um, and but I don't think I really had to advocate because my like manager knew it was important. It was just um, he wasn't like responsible for like talking to the customers and helping set that up. So definitely had to be a little more creative. We use like usertesting.com for to get feedback on our homepage. Um, Went to like car charging stations to talk to customers or talk to people about testing our Connect flow. So we had to be a little more creative because we couldn't talk to customers directly.
Love it. Yeah, that kind of guerrilla recruiting of users. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so another question that is coming in from the participants is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew before you started at Smartcar?
Yeah. I think coming up with a system of design, just creating a design library for yourself, just from the get-go is important. I created a like component library uh, about like probably 4 or 5 months in, and that was super transformative for me. Just it made my workflow so much easier, and it was a really good reference point for our developers if they wanted to check if any like transitions were correct, or just like double check. It just really allowed me to create a very like consistent designs, made the design process super quick for me. So I think thinking about not just like short term how something will look, um, I think a design system kind of forces you to use the same components and be able to adjust them to make sure it works across the product. So um, yeah, I think that's something I wish I did earlier going in. Yeah, I think as the first designer, you don't think about creating a design system because you're the only one designing things. And yeah, people kind of associate design systems with larger companies, but I think it's super important even if you're the only designer.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I was actually going to ask you about design systems and you just answered the question for me. So that makes so much sense. And what tools do you work in the most when you're working day to day designing?
Yeah, pretty much most of everything I do outside of the problem document that I start every project with is done in Figma. So it's like really great for collaborating with, especially my just like teammates. Our team just like comes in and leaves comments. It's very collaborative. So yeah, I really love Figma's product. And then I do like illustration work in Illustrator. So that's kind of the only time where I use like a different tool, but it's pretty much all done in Figma. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Figma's, I love it too. It's great. And so another person wants to know for someone with a non-design background and is out of school, how do you navigate learning product design and getting a role as a product designer? So I guess kind of what advice would you have for that
Mhm.
participant?
Yeah. I think trying to get real world experience is definitely the best way to get experience. If there's like an internship that you can get, or just like trying to if you want to like help a friend with a project, that's like if they're like trying to start a company or something. I think getting that experience is good. Trying to work on like a few really good projects to put on your portfolio is really important. And I think also there's so many like resources to learn about design, but I think it's a lot of just like doing the work. And yeah, a way I learned about design, I think especially like visual design was something I really wanted to learn about, was just looking at uh, applications and like products that I really liked and then kind of recreating them in Figma just for myself to practice. And kind of breaking it down makes you understand all the different pieces of a design and kind of what decisions were made, and over time you kind of see the same patterns that products are using. So that's really helpful in kind of getting that understanding of how things are designed. And yeah, I think design is just a lot of like practice and understanding the patterns, and after that it gets a lot easier. Yeah, highly recommend doing that, as well as just doing more like product specific problems. So yeah, I think try to do projects and then yeah, practice by looking at other great products and recreating them and understanding the process.
Great. Yeah, definitely. Just do the work and get the experience, whether it's volunteering or for free. Yeah. And it seems like there's somebody here who is a designer at a super early stage startup. So they want to know, do you have any advice for someone at a super early stage startup with just a few devs and a product that has yet to launch? So,
Yeah, well, Smartcar launched before I joined, almost a full year before I joined. So um, I think, yeah, it can definitely be hard just trying to get your product like off the ground, I'm sure. I think at that point, yeah, I don't really have the same experience, but I think making sure that you're testing it with people, if you can, yeah, depending on your customer base, make sure that you've talked to a few people about it and really taken their needs into account. And I think just making sure that yeah, I think it's a little hard to say for like what advice I can specifically give, but yeah, just making sure that you have your product is communicated in a really clear way. I think like definitely when you're a new product, like marketing and brand design is a big thing. So yeah, making sure that your values are very clearly communicated. Something that like we're still figuring out, but definitely if you create like values and kind of know like your brand voice, I think that's super critical. And then for your product itself, just talking to potential customers and figuring out if there's any if it addresses their problems. I think that's a big one.
Yeah. And another question that came up is, have you felt in as you're starting your career or even just getting into product design, have you felt like maybe as being a young woman, have you come up with any like bias against that you've had to address head on, whether it's at work or from other designers or developers that you've had to work through?
Yeah, definitely. I think in my internships, I'm super lucky at Smartcar. I never had that experience at Smartcar. Yeah, we're a very, I think I worked at much larger places, yeah, before Smartcar. So it's a little bit more difficult to kind of have like, make sure everyone's just like a really great person as a company scales. Um, yeah, and I think as an intern, you're definitely like, there's hierarchy in larger companies. So it's definitely can be a little bit more challenging in those environments. And yeah, I think I had a lot of like imposter syndrome as an intern. So I think making sure that you have people in your company that you can talk to about these things is really important. Or just like even people outside of your company, like a very close like mentor or someone who can help you navigate those issues. Yeah, I've definitely heard stories from other people, but I think I've been really lucky to not have like any very, very like traumatic experiences in the workplace. So
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned another topic that someone wanted to know about, which was imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not. Do you ever, so you kind of said, do you have any advice for people who might be feeling imposter syndrome or have feelings about proving their worth? Like, what would you say? I heard you say, having a mentor is helpful, but anything else that you might share?
um, I think a lot of it is just realizing um, kind of the your past experiences and your future experiences will help you become more confident as a designer and help you grow. Yeah, I definitely feel a lot of imposter syndrome still, but I think realizing like if you think about anything that you're good at now that you were not great at before, a lot of times it's based on just the more experience you have in that thing, you get a lot better at it. So it's like riding a bike. Like the first time you ride a bike, like I definitely like fell off my bike, but after riding it more, became really good. Could like ride with one hand. So design is kind of like the exact same thing. Like you just need to kind of do more of it and gain more experiences. And once you solve like uh, more problems and work on more projects, then you'll have the confidence because you've had that experience, you've worked on a similar problem. So yeah, kind of realizing that and having a growth mindset is definitely helpful in when you're like feeling like an imposter. Yeah, because I think we all feel that. That's another thing. Like even if you have 20 years of experience, you still have imposter syndrome in some ways for most people.
Yeah, depending on the context. You're
Yeah.
new somewhere or you have less experience in something for sure. Okay, great. And I'll just ask you one more question that's coming up at the end too. Is like, what is your future vision for the design team at Smartcar? Do you see it growing? Is um, Smartcar expanding, and what kind of design positions would you see adding to your team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I can answer that in a lot of detail. Haven't really talked to too much about it, but yeah, currently, unfortunately, we're not hiring any designers. Yeah, I'd love to have more designers on our team someday. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we definitely will. But Smart Car is always hiring. We have a few positions on our careers page right now. So if you're not a designer, you can definitely go to our careers page, smartcar.com/careers, to check it out and kind of learn more about our interview process and our team culture. So we have a lot of great posts. And if you're looking for a job, we also have like non-smart car specific, but our um, recruiting, we have like a culture section with a lot of posts related to recruiting. So, how to land your first job and like tips for the interview process. So I highly encourage anyone who's like looking for a job right now to check out our blog posts.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen, for sharing with everybody your insights and your experiences about being the first designer at Smartcar. As before I just wrap everything up, is there anything else you want to share with all of us before I just close off the evening?
No, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to chat with you and everyone here. Yeah, thanks for all your questions. And yeah, if you have any specific questions, if you need any like help, I'm like happy. I love like looking at people's portfolios and chatting more about being the first designer, about Smartcar, yeah, feel free to email me. My email is Kathleen@smartcar.com.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. And thank you, everyone who joined us this evening. And I just want to say again, Products by Women is really excited to be partnering with Smartcar, and we're definitely going to be having future events together. So you might see Kathleen again and other members of the Smartcar team. So we're excited to keep exploring this relationship. And for any of you who might be free tomorrow evening, we're going to have another event, which will be with another product designer from Meetup, and she's going to talk with us about a product that she designed on her own and taking us from concept through getting it launched in the App Store. So if you want to hear that kind of product journey, join us tomorrow. And also, if you want to apply, we just launched Products by Women, just launched awards. And you can apply by November 15th if you want to submit yourself for one of our product awards. So definitely keep that in mind. And please, yeah, feel free to reach out to Kathleen. If you have more questions about product design, feel free to reach out to Products by Women, join our Slack channel, follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and hopefully I will see you all at a future event. So have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you all soon. All right, bye.
Thank you.